What is up, Nickel City Mafia? Welcome to the Wednesday edition of the Rush Hour. We got a fun one for you tonight. Joining Jake and I are two friends of the Nickel City Mafia network here. Chris, you might have seen on fantasy football shows, and Rick used to do the fantasy football show with Chris, and he also used to do the golf show, which is no longer a thing on Nickel City Mafia. We certainly miss it. But they are two of the coolest guys you'll ever meet. They are diehard Ravens fans, as you can see. Both of them sporting the Ravens jersey. Look at us. I'm doing a bad job here. I'm wearing some hoodie. And Jake, you've got some hoodie, no jersey going on. They're making us look bad, I got to say. Like Jake,
it's okay. We got the backdrop here, Mike. We're good.
Yeah, I got it. Cool. Well, Chris, Rick. Well, Rick, let me start with you. How you doing, man? It's been a while.
Yeah, man. Doing good. Excited for this game. Some people are calling it the game of the century.
Yeah, it should be. It's going to be exciting for sure. I mean, Chris, how you doing, man? It's been a while since we saw you on the airwaves.
Yeah, man, doing good. Fantasy football season went great this year. Now, full steam ahead for Ravens. I went to Ravens Pittsburgh game last weekend. Saw them dominate Pitt, so I'm fired up, man. Let's talk about it.
Yeah. Well, let's get into it. First, I want to hear about both your journeys. Tell the folks, because I want to give you just show them your credibility. First of all, you talked about fantasy football leagues. I think you're in about 50. Is that the count?
Just 11 this year. Yeah.
Just how many?
Just 11.
Oh, just 11. That's light for you. And then what about you, Rick? Did you do any fantasy football this year?
Yeah, I was in 5 leagues, made the playoffs in all 5, and brought home 0 championships. So classic, Rick.
So, Chris, tell me about your journey in becoming a Ravens fan and the experience of winning 2 Super Bowls. And then you also said you had a cool little stat about Ravens winning Super Bowls. So why don't you talk to us about that?
Yeah, man. Their first Super Bowl in 2000, pretty young at that time. Can't say I was like a diehard fan when I was 14 years old, but, definitely kept up with the team and watched them. But the second Super Bowl in 2012, I was at that game. I traveled to every playoff game that year that the Ravens won. So that was really cool. I kept all my ticket stubs, took a picture as the confetti came down, had that picture hanging in my basement. So that was a memory I'll never forget. And then, between 2012 and this year, I've probably been to 15 to 20 away games for the Ravens, away game stadiums. So I've been trying to, catch them all and go to every stadium. I think I have like 6 more left to do. So that's been something I've been working on. And the cool stat about the Ravens winning the Super Bowl, their first Super Bowl was in 2000. Trent Dilfer was their quarterback. He was 28 years old, and the Ravens scored 34 points. Their second Super Bowl was in 2012. Joe Flacco was their quarterback. He was 28 years old. He scored 34 points. This year, 12 years later, 2024 season, Lamar Jackson just turned 28. So we're going to win the Super Bowl and score 34 points. Sorry to tell you, but math is math. History is history. Both are undefeated.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm a big believer in the math equations. So you're telling me you went to one of the Super Bowls? You were at the Super Bowl?
Yeah, 2012, New Orleans.
Dude, that's fantastic.
Was at the Super Bowl. It was wild times, man. I mean, outstanding city to host a Super Bowl. It'll be back there again this year. I will say, the partying and atmosphere is so good. After the Ravens won, I was so mentally exhausted. I just went back to my hotel room, watched Sports Center 3 times, and went to bed.
Wow.
Love that. Love it.
So here we are 12 years later, rolling it back in New Orleans for the Super Bowl. And everything's looking like it's going against us, Jake. But we got some things to help us out. But Rick, what about, so Chris, you were born in Maryland, right? Born and raised in Maryland?
Yep. I was born in Baltimore, Maryland.
Yeah.
Oh, same for you,
me and Rick both. Me and Rick grew up probably 2 miles from each other, about 10 minutes south of Baltimore.
Wow. Awesome. So Rick, was it same for you? Right out of the womb, you're a Ravens fan?
No, we didn't have a team then, man. We didn't have a team.
Really? That's right.
Baltimore Stallions, baby.
Yeah, we didn't have a team until '96. My dad was a Redskins fan. I just never really liked the Redskins growing up. In the early '90s, I was just like a 49ers fan. They would make the Super Bowl every year and make the NFC Championship game every year. I was a big Steve Young fan. I was a big Terrell Owens, Jerry Rice fan growing up, and then next thing I knew, the Browns were moving to Baltimore, and I don't know, just the second they moved here, I just kind of fell in love with Ravens football. And just from the beginning, our first draft pick was a Hall of Fame left tackle, Jonathan Ogden. It's not difficult to realize from the very beginning that it was a good organization to root for. And like Chris said, I mean, in 2000 they won the Super Bowl. That was in Tampa Bay, and I watched it on TV. Went to the parade in Baltimore. Wasn't old enough to actually consider going to the Super Bowl, but I did go in 2012. I was there with Chris. We partied pretty hard that weekend. We were partying with Jamal Lewis the night before. I remember that.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was pretty fun. Great city to host. I love New Orleans. I absolutely love it. It's just a beautiful city. Hoping to go back there in a few weeks, maybe, if the Ravens make the Super Bowl. But yeah, they've been a good team to root for. I'm really happy I didn't follow my dad and like the Redskins, because they've been a disaster organization until this year. But it's been a good ride. Seeing 2 Super Bowls, a lot of fans can't say they've been able to do that. You guys were able to see your team make 4 Super Bowls, but unfortunately never win a Super Bowl, which is I just couldn't imagine even going through that. But it's been a good ride, and hopefully whoever wins this game, I'm rooting for them to, if they play the Chiefs next week, so I'm rooting for whoever wins this game to beat the Chiefs next week. So we'll see what happens, but hopefully one of these 2 teams ends up winning the Super Bowl this year.
Yeah, I'm all right there with you. So real quick, favorite all-time Ravens player, Rick?
If you ask this question to most people, they're probably going to say Ray Lewis, just because he's been such a leader for their organization for so long. But for me, it was Ed Reed. I mean, the guy was just incredible. Just watching him be a ball hawk and, lead the NFL in interceptions year in and year out and take so many pick sixes to the house. He's just like, I don't know if you've ever seen I think it was a 30 for 30, but it was when, Tom Brady and Bill Belichick are just like planning for a Ravens game. And it's just like, all you have to do is just pay attention to where Ed Reed is. That's like the most important thing in the world. Not even considering Ray Lewis on the other side, who's the middle linebacker who's making all the tackles. They were game planning against Ed Reed. So my answer is Ed Reed. Guy's a legend in Baltimore. He comes to a lot of the Ravens games still. I think Chris has met him multiple times, and really nice guy, really involved in the Baltimore community for a long time. So really good guy, like Ed Reed.
Love it. Great pick. I did think you were going to go with Ray Lewis, but love Ed Reed as well. What about you, Chris?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the cliche pick.
Yes.
Ray's my guy, man. What you got there?
How about that one, boys? Chris Redman, rookie card, signed.
University of Louisville, maybe?
I have a weird obsession with Louisville quarterbacks. I had a Dave Ragone bobblehead over here not too long ago, another Louisville guy. But Chris Redman rings true to me. And I'll add to this spectacle because, you're talking about your favorite Ravens of all time. I'll admit, one of my favorite players growing up was Todd Heap. I loved Todd Heap so much. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was the first Hard Knocks, because the Ravens played host the very first edition of Hard Knocks. So I saw Todd Heap on there, and his wife, I'm just going to say, beautiful human being. And I think that's really what drew me to him back in the day. I'm a teenager. I'm like, wow, she is good looking. And then, Todd Heap, Pro Bowl tight end, really good player. I played a little bit of tight end back in the day, wore number 86. So that was my guy, although Bills fan, but loved Todd Heap. Shout out to him.
Jake, if you love Louisville quarterbacks so much, I might have to send you a Lamar Jackson Louisville jersey.
Yeah. That's why I stopped, because I'm like, you know what? I don't want to even get into the Lamar stuff. I do like Lamar. I really do. I respect his game so much, but listen, not this weekend. I hope he has the worst game of his career.
Yeah, I pictured you with Sam Gash being your your favorite Raven ever.
There you
Dude,
go.
now that's a great pick. Sam Gash, shout out to him. Shout out to Kelly Gregg, Edgerton
man.
Hartwell, Matt Stover. Loved Matt Stover as well. Huge fan of Matt Stover. Really good kicker, underrated player. The list goes on. I mean, LaRon McClain. I mean, we can go all day, boys. But I love that. Great names.
Dick just loves to throw out these names, man.
I do.
So, a couple years ago, a couple seasons ago, I should say, when the Bills played the Ravens and beat them in Baltimore, we had a bet. And the bet then was on the next following pod that the losing team the losing guys would wear the opposite jersey. So I know that Rick wore, forget who it was, but I lent you a jersey. It's sad that I don't remember what it is because it's disappeared. I don't know where it is. But he wore it, and I'm not sure if Chris was on the pod at that time, so I don't think he had to wear one. But we got to think of a bet. So throughout the show, maybe towards the end, let's figure out what we're going to bet this week. But all right, let's get into it. So just real quick too. I'll start with Rick. Rick, what do Ravens fans think about Bills Mafia and the Buffalo Bills as a team?
Obviously, we have a lot of respect for you guys. We know how good Josh Allen is. I mean, it's basically neck and neck. For who's the MVP this year. I mean, it could flip a coin and decide who it's going to be between Lamar and Josh Allen. I mean, I saw a graphic earlier this week that was like, I just say whoever wins this game this Sunday, just give them the MVP. I mean, I know it's not a postseason award, but that's probably the MVP. So, I just a lot of respect for the organization. Good head coach, good front office, good players. We've had some battles. Obviously, the game that you talked about a few years ago in the playoffs was rough. We lost that one. We handed you guys a little bit of a butt kicking earlier this year. I don't think it's the same Bills team that we're playing from week 4. They definitely were missing some guys that game, so it's going to be a little bit different of a squad. Obviously, this game's in Buffalo, so yeah. A lot of respect for the organization. The fans, that's a little bit of a different story. You guys may be a little bit nutcased in the head. I'm not really sure. Jumping through fire tables and stuff like that, putting babies through tables. I don't know about all that, but definitely the team. Definitely a lot of respect for the teams. The fans are a different story, though.
Are you like? Do you respect the fans? Are you scared of the fans? What is the?
I think it's more towards the scared of the fans.
Yeah,
I don't think I'd ever want to get into a fight with a Bills fan. It's they might kill me or something like that. I don't know.
That's the thing though. So people get it twisted. They see us jumping through tables and stuff, but Buffalo is the city of good neighbors. Like we invite the other teams to tailgate with us and get hammered. And like the initiation process is, hey, we're gonna put you through a table so you can be one of us. Even though you're wearing different colors, we'll still invite you in. We'll do bowling ball shots with you. Like that's what it's all about. It's about the camaraderie. We're not Eagles fans. They're a bunch of scumbags, by the way, for the most part. Not all of them, but we saw a few videos out there, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So I'm not gonna generalize an entire fan base, but we are not what they are portrayed as, right? So we're a different type of drunk. We're degenerates, but we're not like mean degenerates. We're just drinking because we've been, it's been miserable for a lot of years, guys, so we had to find an outlet. And Buffalo in itself, very cold city, a lot of snow. Probably 8 months out of the year, we got cold weather. So not a whole lot to do outside of drinking and eating here. So that's just part of the culture,
You guys are like the crazy uncle that like you never know what he's gonna say or do, and you only see him like 3 times a year, but it's usually a good time. But you're also like on edge that this guy could literally do anything at any given moment.
Yeah, that's fair. That's about right. Yeah.
I will say back in the day when my grandfather had season tickets and we were going, it was a different story. Jake, you didn't want to come in with the opposing team's jersey on, or did you want to cheer? I mean, brawls left and right. This still happens a little bit today, but it's a much different atmosphere, I think, than it was way back in the day. People didn't know how to act. They really didn't.
Do you think? Let me ask you guys a question. Do you guys think that the frustration amongst Bills fans has just developed because of never winning a Super Bowl, like going to the Super Bowl 4 years in a row and losing? Like, do you think the progression of Bills fans just getting crazier, just not having the success of winning a ring? Is that what it comes down to, you think?
Yeah, I think so. Now, Mike will attest to this, right? So growing up, Mike made this comment a few times before in the past. I mean, I think it still stands true. Buffalo has more bars per square mile or something than anything else, any other type of building, right? So, I mean, growing up, you walk down not even a full mile, you're seeing bars as you're walking down the street. And Mike said this even growing up. So I always like to think of Buffalo as a drinking town with a sports problem. Then when you have the sports problem really involved, you go to 4 straight Super Bowls, you lose all of them. And then after that, you go on a 17-year playoff drought. You're going to start getting a little aggressive. And then I think overall, social media comes into play. You start seeing some crazy videos, and then the team starts winning. We don't even know what to do. We don't know how to express ourselves. And then you see even crazier things come out. So it's a beautiful mix of craziness. That's what it is.
Yeah.
But yes, a lot of frustration pent up for sure, Rick. Absolutely.
Well, a lot of the Jake's generation, I mean, they didn't. I don't know how old you were, Jake. If you were even born,
I was born in '93.
Okay, so they didn't really go through that heartbreak. And back then, there was no Bills Mafia. We weren't jumping through tables. I don't know when that started, and I think it came about during the drought. I don't know when do you know when the Mafia first was a thing, Jake?
So according to Pinto Ron, it's always really been a thing since even the 80s, but it wasn't as broadcasted as it is now. I think social media has really heightened what Bills Mafia is. I mean, the fan base has always been diehard, but you just haven't been able to see that. Buffalo never been a big name, never been really nationally recognized or anything like that. And then we were during the Super Bowl era. And I'll tell you what, the players partied just as hard as the fans. I mean, Mike, you could probably agree with that as well. I mean, that was one of our biggest knocks during the Super Bowl era. Is a lot of those guys, they'd go out and get absolutely hammered before these Super Bowl games. I remember Thurm lost his helmet opening play of the Super Bowl, and I think half of the reason was probably because he was hungover. So, and I love Thurm, but it is what it is. Those guys partied hard. They partied just like the fans did.
Yeah. So, Rick, in short, I think it's just really the drought and the younger generation. Like for me, going through those 4 Super Bowls, man, first 2 Super Bowls, I was that guy up until then that it would ruin me. It would ruin me for a day or two. My family knew, just leave me alone. I'm going to go in the room and shed some tears and just, I'll eventually come out. And then finally I got to this point where why am I letting a football game dictate my life? So I finally got to the point where I can deal with it. And so there's not really much frustration for me. And I would imagine Big Al, who's out there, by the way, he says, this is Jake's dad. I think the water's a little different here. Maybe so. And then
my dad has a great story. He bought Andre Reed a shot, and then I think Andre bought him a shot or something.
Really?
I even mentioned it on our show, Mike. I'm so upset that I forgot to mention this. And I think my dad asked Andre, he said, how many catches are you going to have this year? And he said 100. I don't think he ever had 100 catches in a season, but he was always in the 90s. He was always, producing. But great story. But yeah, those guys used to drink at the Big Tree Inn and get after it quite a bit.
Yeah, they certainly did. And it probably cost them a Super Bowl.
Maybe. Yep.
But Jessica, good to see you thanks for joining us. So I'll start with Chris on this particular question. Are the third seed 2024 12-5 Ravens better than the 2023 13-4 first seed Ravens? And if so, why?
I think if you asked me this 5 or 6 weeks ago, I would have said no way. But seeing how much the Ravens defense made a change during the bye week, they had a late bye week this year, week 14. The team hasn't given up, I believe, not more than 18 points since the bye week. They made some changes in their secondary. They benched I think he's our highest priced or second highest priced defensive player, Marcus Williams. So he hasn't played a snap in 6 weeks. And we started putting Kyle Hamilton more in a free safety position, and we play Ardarius Washington now at our other safety position. It's really made our defense more cohesive, and we did a 180. I mean, the first 12, 13 weeks of the year, the Ravens had the 32nd ranked pass defense. So, but now we're absolutely on fire. I'm talking so much about the defense that is what I need to do the convincing. of myself because the Ravens defense last year was #1 ranked in the NFL. So the defense, I think, is hanging in there enough because the offense, to me, this year, I don't know the numbers 23 versus 24, but just watching the offense move this year, Todd Monken is just completely in his bag. He has a plan. He doesn't deviate. He doesn't, get flustered the way they did against Kansas City. I mean, Derrick Henry is a big reason for that, but I think Lamar is playing heads and tails better than he did last year when he won the MVP. Like, I feel like it's not even the same person. I mean, he's just absolutely locked in. It's like to the point where I'm having a hard time envisioning him like making that big mistake that he's kind of prone to making. I just can't see it happening. I mean, the guy's absolutely locked in. I know the ball can bounce many different ways, but just the maturity that he's gained this year, the comfortability that he has with Monken's offense, adding Henry, they totally revamped the O-line, and it took a decent amount of the year, but the O-line is just absolutely mauling people the past month. So for those reasons, I'm more confident with the team this year than I was last year.
Interesting. Anything to add to that, Rick?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I just think Lamar is just playing on a totally different level than he was even when they were the 1 seed last year. And is it because of anything that Todd Monken's changed? Probably, yeah. Maybe he's evolved his game plan calling a little bit, but I think the biggest difference between last year and this year's team is Derrick Henry. I think just the fact that instead of we were just throwing out a bunch of different backs last year. I think we had, what's the guy's name that played back for us last year that used to be on the Falcons, the guy with the dreads. I don't remember his name, but
Foreman.
Deontay Freeman.
Yeah, Deontay Foreman. Yeah, Devonta Freeman. Yeah, we had we had guys like throwing like him out there, but now we have a solid, backfield with Justice Hill and Derrick Henry. And there's such a big difference for Lamar to be able to play when it's 2nd and 3 instead of 2nd and 11 or 2nd and 10. So I just think just having that ability to be able to run the ball on first down and consistently gain like 4 to 6 yards with Derrick Henry or more just makes things a lot easier. And it just makes the defense have to game plan not only for a guy that you can't tackle in Derrick Henry, but you can't. It's hard to tackle Lamar Jackson too. So I think this year's team overall is better than last year's team. It sounds weird because last year we were the 1 seed. We made the AFC Championship game, had a home AFC Championship game, but I just think this team is a little bit different than last year and better, even though we were 12-5. 12-5.
Yeah, good points there. I think I'm going to bring up this comment here because I was going to throw this to you, Jake. I mean, it used to be what we'd hear is make Lamar throw the ball. And Alpha Rob here, thanks for joining the show tonight. Still make Jackson throw because to beat our secondary, you have to be an elite passer in perfect condition outside. Pass is not going to be perfect. So it's going to be cold, maybe some snow on the ground. But Jake, I mean, that used to be the thing. But looking at what Lamar did this year, and I agree with you, Rick, I think a lot of that was aided by what Derrick Henry brought. I mean, you couldn't just, now who do you stop? I saw what Pittsburgh did in that game. I thought it was insane. I'm like, will you stop trying to tackle Henry? Because Lamar was feasting on that. But Jake, talk to me about that.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I think Lamar, first off, is an incredibly underrated pocket passer. I don't think people understand just how good he is when he has time and sits in the pocket and throws the football. Like, this dude is very accurate. He throws a good ball. I think people a lot of times just see him rolling out to the right, rolling out to the left, and just kind of throwing outside the numbers, just these lob balls, right? And they just somehow magically dump into those receivers' hands, and they're wide open because you're running scramble drill. You got to worry about Derrick Henry and all these other things. And yeah, that's true. But I don't think people understand. I mean, you let this guy throw the football in the pocket too. He's a pretty damn good pocket passer as well. I do think if we swallow up Henry and we make them work for it and have to throw the football more than they usually do, because, I mean, you look at the numbers. In 17 games, Lamar still had less pass attempts than even Josh Allen had. And Josh didn't even play the fourth quarter in a lot of games this year. So there's something to be said about that, right? You guys don't throw the ball a ton. It's maybe, 20, 24, 25 times a game. So I think if you make them throw the ball to excess, it will end up in a Ravens loss, because at that point they're probably trying to play catch up and they have to throw the football, whereas they can't rely on that running game and milk clock and do all those things and just wear you down physically. So I'll say this. I did see a stat earlier when the Bills wear their blue jerseys against Derrick Henry compared to their white jerseys. It's a lot better results. So I'm very confident about that, right? So, but what I do expect, so here's a very good plus. In that first game we played against each other, where you guys beat us 35-10, we were missing both of our starting linebackers in Terrell Bernard and Matt Milano, as well as one of the top nickel corners in football in Taron Johnson. And Taron Johnson has had some monster games against you guys. I probably don't want to remember this memory, but back in the 2022 season, when we played you guys at home, there was a pick six that ultimately sealed the game by none other than Taron Johnson. Shout out to Taron Johnson.
Did he get hurt last week? Is he playing this week?
Yeah, so he has a neck injury. I think he is going to play. It looks like he's going to play. So they actually looked at him. Yeah, he came back in.
He came back. He came back into the game last week. Okay.
They still listed him with a neck injury, I believe, on the injury report, but they have to mandatorily do that. But he's going to play this week. He actually came back into that game, got checked for concussion, passed concussion protocol. Thank God, because that would have been a really hard loss to deal with this week. So I think that will be a difference maker. But yes, I think Alpha Rob is correct in what he says here, but I don't want to discredit Lamar with how great he has been this year as a pocket passer and as a thrower in general. I mean, you guys made a great point. He's matured a lot. And I'll tell you what, year 2 in this Todd Monken run offense, he's been absolutely incredible and is well deserving of the MVP. I hate that we're pitting two guys against each other because they're both deserving of the MVP award, but one's got to win at the end of the day, unless you do co-MVPs like they did back in 03 with Steve McNair and Peyton Manning.
Yeah. Mad Chatter here. TMC here is the Mad Chatter. He's gone by many different names for his time on here. But he says, question for the panel, which side is more nervous? And I'll start, and then we'll go around the horn here. Everybody, I'm more nervous. I mean, obviously the Ravens, what they did in week 4, to Rick's point, they are different teams. To Jake's point, we're missing players. But adding Derrick Henry, we always struggle against the run. Derrick Henry has taken it to the house on us multiple times. He did it when just a few years back when he was with the Titans, went to the house on us. He's bullied guys. He's got some of his best memes that have been created, right? Josh Norman. And then, dude, last weekend against Pittsburgh, I felt like he was going, and it almost looked like he gave a dude a right hand right in the face. But on replays, basically pushed him out of the way. So with Derrick Henry there, and who do you stop running? I mean, that RPO is very difficult, and we struggle against the run. So I'm extremely nervous. I do know that I've heard that Zay Flowers probably won't play. I don't know if that's been official yet, but it doesn't look good for him. But they still have 2 great tight ends, and they have who's the other guy? You guys for your wide receiver? Bateman, yeah, Bateman, and so I'm scared. They also have one of the best defenses in the league. They keep the opposing team to just 80.1 yards a game rushing, which is our strength. So I think that's going to be a key point for us when we get into the key things to this game, is being able to run the ball, do something against the Ravens that very few teams have been able to do, sustain long drives, and of course. They also had, I think they were second in sacks on the year. Of course, the Broncos were first. I think we faced them last week, did a really good job against them. But the Ravens were second, and their defense is always stout. The thing is, so to answer that question, for me, I'm more nervous. Jake, I'm more nervous for the Bills.
I'll tell you what, I think the fact that I'm going to the game, it's going to ease those nerves a little bit. I mean, of course. But you know what? I'll tell you what, Mike. This is what we always wanted. We wanted to be nervous going into games. I mean, we were just craving to have these feelings of like, oh my gosh, we're in a big game again. Like, this could be the game of the century. And I know we played against the Kansas City Chiefs and a bunch of big games and stuff. And they're talking about this game being the game of the freaking century. Are you kidding me? 2 MVP players going against each other. Like, Yeah, I mean, I'm a little nervous myself, but I'm more excited. I know we're going to show up. The crowd's going to show up. We're going to win the tailgate. And I think the fact that this game is at home is a huge advantage for the Buffalo Bills. I mean, it's going to be 8 degrees out there. Lamar doesn't like playing in the cold. I mean, he plays well in the cold a lot, but not in Buffalo. So you got to get him on the ground. You got to get him a little antsy out there. I think the pass rush has to really show up. But you also have to play disciplined football, and you can't let them gash you up the middle and out physical you like they did in the previous game. So that's really what it comes down to. I would like to see a little bit of that 3 linebacker play. Maybe we're even run a 4-3, run a heavier package. So, yeah, I mean, I'm looking at Derrick Henry's stats against the Bills, and it seems like every other game he seems to go off against us. This past game, 199 yards. The game before that, he had 13 carries for 25 yards, Mike. This was with the Titans. The game before that, 143 yards. Game before that, 57. So he's due for a bad day. There you go.
Jessica is saying that sounds like Jake will be having a lot of liquid.
No, Jess, dry January. So pray for me. Yeah.
Yeah. To your point, Jake, I mean, I don't care. Like, if back in the day when the Bills went to the Super Bowl against the Giants, there was no way I thought the Bills were going to lose. They were the best team by far. They should have won that Super Bowl, but still nervous on every game. And maybe it's worse now because of what I've seen in the Super Bowls. There's not a game like we could be 15-1 playing a team that's 9-7 in the playoffs, and I'll be nervous. I was super nervous against Denver this week, but anyhow, let me throw it to you guys. Are you nervous at all, guys? Let me throw it to Rick first.
Yeah, I mean, of course I'm nervous. I literally, it's all I think about every day. But when it comes to playoff times, I always get really nervous. But I think to answer the question, I honestly think the Bills fans are probably a little bit more nervous than the Ravens fans. Obviously, Vegas thinks the Ravens are a slight favorite here. If this was played on a neutral site, they would be saying that the Ravens are like a 3-point favorite in this game because usually give about 2 to 3 points for the home team. So the fact that the Ravens are favored in Buffalo is kind of a big deal. But but at the end of the day, it is a coin flip game. I think these two teams are very identical. The offenses kind of run the same way. Josh Allen does his thing with his legs. Lamar does his thing with his legs, and then good running games, good offensive line. The teams are very, very similar. That's why it's a coin flip. But at the end of the day, I think that in this particular game, I think the Bills fans are a little bit more nervous. I think what we had talked about earlier in the group chat is true. I think the Bills' worst matchup is the Ravens. The Ravens' worst matchup is the Chiefs. The Chiefs' worst matchup is the Bills. So I'm pretty sure the Chiefs are rooting for the Ravens in this game. They'd rather face the Ravens than the Bills, to be honest, because obviously the Bills beat the Chiefs earlier this year. But I just think overall, I think the Bills fans are a little bit more nervous. They obviously have a big time, past history thing of losing big games in the playoffs, especially over the last few years. The last time an AFC North team went into Buffalo in a playoff game in 8-degree weather, Joe Burrow went in and did his thing. They beat him in Buffalo. So, could this be a repeat? I don't know. We'll see. But I think the Bills fans are a little bit more nervous than the Ravens fans, but I'm plenty nervous to begin with. So
yeah, I agree. What about you, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, I think Bills fans have a bit more to be nervous about here. Not saying that I'm not, but with the outcome of the game earlier in the season, under much different circumstances, injuries, location of the game, etc. But I just think the Ravens have a easier path to how this game should play out, right? I mean, the previous commenter was saying, make Lamar throw it from the pocket and take your chances with that. I agree. 10 times easier said than done. We're going to run 6 and 7 offensive linemen, make the Bills get out of nickel and dime packages until you make us stop that. That's what we did against the Steelers. I saw we ran 7 offensive linemen last week 15 times. So you can't run a nickel defense against that. It just won't work. So it's just going to be the Bills' game plan and execution to say, I know the Ravens are going to run it 35 times. What am I going to do about it? So to me, The difference between last year, the Ravens offense last year and this year is I already know what they're going to do this year, and so do the Bills. But that calms me a bit because I don't have to guess what our game plan is going to be. I know what it's going to be, right? So I know they're going to run Henry, they're going to run Lamar, and they're going to make the Bills stop it. And whether or not they can execute that, we'll see on Sunday.
Yeah, I think Jake had mentioned it. We were talking on our last show. We have 3 really good linebackers, and maybe we get out of that nickel. Like for me, I'm saying get out of that nickel early. Like let's start the 3 linebackers and give them something different right out of the chute. Maybe get a couple key stops early on. Because that game in week 4, I mean, you guys went down the field like 3 times every time you had the ball and scored.
I read today, Mike, and you guys can confirm this. I was listening to a podcast. The Bills ran a base defense 3% of plays this year. Is that true?
That is
so that would be a pretty big deviation from what you're comfortable with and what you typically run to run a base D.
Yeah. No, I'm nervous. Let's throw something different at them. And I'm saying just do it early, maybe surprise them, and then go back to your base D. We'll see. They never, every time we've talked about this, they never seem to do it. I think they did it a couple times, Jake, in the past, but not very often. But I think if we're going to do it, this is the year to do it because we have Matt Milano, Terrell Bernard, and Dorian Williams has got a lot of good play time this year, and he's been really good. So I could see those 3 guys potentially instead of the small guy. Because I'm gonna tell you what, Jake. I mean, you're what, 6 foot?
Yeah,
you're 6 foot. 6 foot. About what?
Yeah.
190.
Don't ask about my weight though.
All right, let's give you a good weight. 190, 195. You're playing secondary.
No, we're talking, Mike. Listen, I weigh as much as Josh Allen does right now, so 237.
Okay, all right.
Okay,
all right.
It's not pretty.
Well, imagine being Taron Johnson. What is he? 5'10" on a good day. 5'11" on a good day.
He's not big.
Maybe 190, and you got Derrick Henry coming straight at you. No, I don't like those odds. I mean, if it was me, I'd retire immediately. I'm like, sorry guys, I'm going off to the sideline and be one of those players like I can't do this anymore. This guy shouldn't. This is a cheat code right here. But anyhow, yeah. So maybe Chris, you're right. They're probably not going to go out of that and stick with their nickel, but it's just something I would love to see them try at the very least to kind of shut down that run.
Who led the Bills in sacks this year?
Greg Rousseau, he had 8. So
Yeah,
not bad. Von Miller with 6 this year, Rick. So that was another non-factor in that first game. Von didn't even register a stat, I believe. Then after that, he was suspended. So yeah, I mean, he actually started the season off pretty hot, and then he sort of kind of fell off the face of the earth. And the last few weeks, he's been a lot better. You can see that speed is there a little bit. The technique is, I mean, that's just something that's like riding a bike for a guy like that, So I think he's going to bring it this week.
Yeah, I agree, Jessica. She's saying I think they should play base and use one of the linebackers as a spy.
Absolutely.
I like that idea. So here's a question from Big Al to you guys. I mean, I don't know if you had heard this before Jake had mentioned it to you. What do you guys think about the Bills picking up your old quarterback? What's his name again, Jake? What's his name?
Anthony Brown.
What do you think about that, guys?
I don't even when was he most recently on our team? Was he on our team this preseason? I don't think so.
So I believe he was with you guys as recent as maybe it was 2022.
Yeah.
So it's been a couple years. Yeah, actually, I'm looking right now. 2022, it looks like. Yeah, and I think he actually had to start a game for you guys too, or he came into a game. I know. So, it wasn't pretty.
Usually when a signing like this happens, you're looking for a second set of legs in practice to emulate Lamar. I think you want to give your defense, looks of someone somewhat mobile. Obviously Josh Allen can replicate that, but
Josh Allen's going to be the one to give you the best looks.
But you against Lamar. You probably want multiple people with the ability to do that. I mean, I don't know why Mitch can't do it.
Mitchell can move, man. He's like 4'6". Yeah, he was like a 4'6" guy.
Yeah, Mighty Mouse.
Right?
Yeah, so Cody, good to see you out there. He was coming in with his fantasy draft room saying 1 week till I'm out. on next week to preview the AFC Championship. The schedule is already cleared. All right, Cody. Cody,
Love that.
I want you. Cody's a good guy. He's been on our show before, and he does a lot of analytics. Curious, Cody, what do you think about this game? Throw that out in the chat. But good stuff there. So yeah, interesting pickup by them. I'm like, all right. I mean, get a little insight. I'm like, is he fast like Lamar? Because I mean, I don't even know how much of the playbook he really knows, but we'll see. I think it was an interesting play. Why not? But get him on the cheap. It's a 1-week consultant job, and so he'll probably be released, and we'll be re-signing. I think it was Ilianku who we released from the practice squad to make room for him. So we'll probably re-sign Ilianku after this game this week. So, all right. Jake, anything before we get some more questions? I've been hogging up all the questions. You got any questions for the guys?
I want to know, I guess, with you guys, how confident are you in your defense? I know we've talked a lot about, like, hey, how can the Bills stop Lamar? Well, how are you guys going to stop Josh Allen? That's my question to you. What's your take? What are you guys going to do?
I couldn't wait for the questions to shift because I feel like we're not giving enough love to Allen and the rest of the offense.
Yeah.
I'm nervous, man, because as good as Lamar is, I think he excels when he's on script, and when the running game is good, he's excellent, right? If the Ravens and the Bills have to throw the ball 35 times, I think the Bills will win. You're used to the elements. If Zay Flowers is out, you guys probably have better weapons across the board in the receiving game. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I was talking earlier about how I'm way more confident in our secondary. The thing that I would attack if I were the Bills, I would throw 4 go balls up the left sideline, whoever you want to run, Coleman, Cooper, doesn't matter. Brandon Stevens is rated the second worst corner in the NFL right now, and he plays every play of the game pretty much on the left side at corner. Humphrey plays the slot, and so he'll be guarding Shakir, I'm assuming, or Kincaid most of the game. And then our right corner is a rookie, Nate Wiggins, who's had a really strong year. Just whoever you want to take shots at, put them on the left sideline. If you guys don't throw a go ball on the left sideline at least 4 times, your game plan's wrong.
Yeah. I echoing just what Chris said. I just we have an all-pro in Marlon Humphrey. We have an all-pro in Kyle Hamilton. We have an all-pro in Roquan Smith. We have 3 really, really good players on defense. Our D line's a little, suspect sometimes. Our pass rush is a little suspect sometimes. We do need to get home on Josh Allen a couple times. I just think that in this game, the most important part of the game, I think, is going to be the first 15 minutes of the game. I think whoever sets the tone in the first 15 minutes is going to be the team that wins this game. If the Ravens jump out to a 14-0 lead, if anything happens like the first game where Derrick Henry takes the first play of the game to the house and the Ravens take a lead, I think the Bills are going to panic. But if it's the other way around and the Bills jump out to a 14-0 lead and, Ravens are trying to play catch up, the Ravens are going to panic. And we saw last year what happens when, in the AFC Championship game, what happens when the Ravens panic is they don't run the ball. They resort to trying to pass the ball every single down and blah, 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 blah. But I think whoever sets the tone in the first quarter is going to win this game. And it's going to be tough for whatever team that falls behind to catch up. I know that the Bills did it last week. They got punched in the mouth on the first drive of the game. The Broncos threw a deep ball on them and they scored a touchdown the first drive of the game. And after that, they settled down a little bit and they didn't allow, I don't think they allowed any more points the rest of the game, and they came back and won. But that's the Broncos. I mean, if the Ravens do the same thing, if the Ravens punch them in the mouth the first drive of the game, I could see the Bills panicking a little bit. This is not the Broncos. This is the Ravens. This is a different team. So we'll see what happens. I just think the first 15 minutes are going to be really important. I really hope we jump out to a lead, obviously, and take it from there. But it's going to be a good game. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. To be completely honest with you, if I was going to bet this game, I'd probably bet the over. But I think it's going to be a lot of points, and I think it's going to be kind of similar to Bills Chiefs games in the past, and whoever has the ball last might be the team that wins the game.
And the balls. It's going to be
And
cold
the
out
balls.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's the other good question. The reason I was asking more questions on the Ravens side is because we know the Bills very well. We trust in the Bills and really want to just kind of understand your team because I don't watch. I mean, I hate to say this, but I do watch them more than I should because I'm kind of forced to because my little boy, 12-year-old Jonah, loves the Ravens, and I've been threatening to send him over to Rick's house this upcoming Sunday so that we don't have to be in the same room. But he's pretty good about it. He's like, Dad, just look at it on the bright side. One of our teams will be moving on to the AFC Championship game. So I'm like, all right, I can live with that. But yeah, so on the defensive side for you guys, you do have really good defense. You're second in sacks, but the Bills, like, we didn't have Amari Cooper. There was another guy we didn't have back in week 4, and I know you guys in our group chat weren't big fans of Amari, but Amari Cooper's come in and he can have a game. But what he's been doing is taking the top corner and kind of opening it up for everyone else. And it's like, who do you watch on the Bills? The Bills have so many different, they're not elite weapons, but damn, they're good when you need them. It's like, who do you watch? Who do you guard? It's very difficult. And with Amari Cooper being added, I'm still waiting for him. I've been told that teams hold back the playbook a little bit going into the playoffs. Well, we saw Curtis Samuel kind of light it up he came alive last game. I'm watching for Amari Cooper potentially to finally release the Kraken with Amari there. Jake, I don't know what your thoughts are there.
Yeah, 100%. It's going to be an interesting matchup. See whether he'll probably take on Nate Wiggins, I would assume. So the wily old vet versus the rook. So that's going to be a really cool matchup to focus in on. I know you boys not a huge fan of either of you. I don't think are huge fans of Amari Cooper. He's not the sexiest guy in the world when he's out there playing, right? But tell you what, the stats look good in his career. He's been able to get it done for quite a few years now. 5-time Pro Bowler, and the stats this year have not really emulated what he did last year, having over 1,200 yards receiving, setting career highs in that. But I think what he still does do is demand the respect of, the top tier corner on the team of the opposing defense. And like Mike said, it kind of frees the other guys up and allows them to consistently make plays when it's most needed, So I think everyone contributes in different ways. Everybody eats on this offense. One element, too, that's really been huge for us is our running game. I mean, we have James Cook, Ty Johnson, Ray Davis, probably not going to be playing in this one. So I'm curious to see what they do there, if they call it Frank Gore Jr., or if they play sledge a little bit out there a little bit. My boy Reggie Gilliam, maybe we'll see a couple fullback runs. I doubt it, but wishful thinking. He had a couple really big blocks last week. I don't know if you guys got to see that, but shout out to 41. When 41's in the backfield, typically good things happen. But I will say this. I think, we kind of abandoned the run game early on in the last game that we played against you guys. It was starting off decent, and then after that, we just totally scrapped it. And I think the reason for that, obviously, is we got off to such a big lead that we couldn't continue running the football. But I think you have to be able to get Josh outside the pocket a little bit, allow him to run a little bit of scramble drill, get these corners on their tippy toes a little bit. Brandon Stevens, as you mentioned, he struggled a little bit this year. I think we can definitely take advantage of him with guys like Keon Coleman, especially bigger body guys, and especially our tight ends too. I think our tight ends can really have a day here. Would like to see some more involvement from them as well, because they did absolutely nothing in that first matchup too. So, I think, like I said, with Amari Cooper, demands the respect of that number one corner. So it frees up the field a little bit. It's going to be a great matchup to watch Khalil Shakir go against Marlon Humphrey. So even if that's not free, we got our other guys. We got the tight ends. We got 3 tight ends that can catch the football on this offense: and Quentin Morris, Dalton Kincaid, and Dawson Knox. So I love it. Let's do it.
You talk about those tight ends. Like, they're not quite to where the Ravens tight ends are. I don't believe, not yet. You got Kincaid in the second year. Dawson Knox, he shows up in big games. So, you got so many guys that you got to worry about now. And like Jake said, out of the backfield, Ty Johnson, you guys saw that play with the touchdown last week. That wasn't his first game catching balls out of the backfield. He had I forget what team it was. He had like 5 receptions for over 100 yards in a game not that long ago. So he's dangerous out of the backfield. So is So is Cook. Ray Davis, unfortunately, won't be there, but I think with the number 1 and 2 there, you're going to see there's just a lot of threats on the Bills side that you got to worry about. And I don't think that was finely tuned back in week 4. I mean, Chris, I got to ask you, were you one of the guys that said after the Bills lost Steph Diggs, Gabe Davis, Mitch Morse at center, that they were going to not, just be in a rebuild this year, probably fall, not be, win the division? Were you one of those guys, or what were you thinking? Or did we kind of sway you when you come on a channel? We're always hitting you up there like, don't count us out, Chris. What was your thought, really?
Yeah, I mean, well, fortunate. I don't think I thought the Bills were going to rebuild. You don't rebuild when you have Josh Allen. They have a great coach, a solid defense every year. You don't rebuild when you have those pieces. And plus, your division's poor enough that you don't, need to go into a rebuild, right? So, no, I mean, I did not think the Bills are going to be quite as good as they ended up being this year, but by no means did I think they were going to finish below 500 or anything like that. So yeah, no, I mean, I'm pretty impressed with the Bills. I mean, they make me nervous. I feel like they get the most juice per squeeze as I've seen a team get in a while. And I don't mean that disrespectfully. I mean that they, James Cook tied for the NFL lead in rushing touchdowns this year. Josh Allen just seems to him and haul his way to 3 touchdowns almost every game, and it, does it pretty effortlessly. I mean, it's just they don't look like they're stressing ever, and it's just easy to them. So, like Rick said, I really think the first quarter and a half is going to define how this game goes. Whatever team is the first to get on their heels probably has an uphill battle.
I think it's amazing when you remove some egos from the team, what it can do. You made a great point. We're doing so much more with less. We're still squeezing out that juice and we're still making it happen. And we're a better team this year than we were last year. I fully believe that, so, and who would have thought, right? Everyone's like, this is a rebuild year, and that's an argument as to why maybe Josh is an MVP, this year. That's why he wins it, maybe because the team was looked at as being in a rebuild, which is insane to say. Cause like you said, we have Josh Allen. You're never in a rebuild when you have a guy like that, but to take a step back, maybe it was like, maybe they go 10-7 or 9-8, not 13-4. I mean, who would have ever thought 13-4? I said 12-5. I even underestimated them. People looked at me like I was nuts. So, not to toot my own horn, but, pretty excited that we're in this position. But now that we're here and now that we've seen what they can do, it's not good enough to now lose in the divisional round, even if it is against the Baltimore Ravens. So I'm excited, boys. It's going to be a fun one. Rick, we got to get you out here for the tailgate, man. It's going to be electric.
I'm really tempted to book a flight to Buffalo. I got some friends coming up from Maryland that are going to the game, and I don't know, man. I feel like I really want to be there in person, but I also feel like I don't know. I went to Baltimore for the AFC Championship game last year, which kind of didn't go well. So I just don't want to fly all the way over there and see another loss. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm going to make a decision in the next 24 hours, but we'll see.
Scared money don't make money, Rick. If I didn't have
I love it, Chris.
If I didn't have a 4-week-old, my ass would be on my way to that 5-degree game. Let's go.
Yeah. I will say that I was before the season started, I know that a lot of people were talking about Bills rebuild and stuff like that, but I was extremely confident that the Bills were still going to win the AFC East. They're in a division with the dysfunctional Jets, the rebuilding Patriots, the Dolphins, who have a quarterback who I think is not good at all. So I never had a doubt that the Bills were going to be good and win the division at least. I just the only thing I'll say is the best thing about Lamar and the best thing about Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, the 3 best quarterbacks in the league, is the fact that they make their receivers better. They make the guys who are catching passes from them better. I mean, the Chiefs lost Tyreek Hill and they went on to win multiple Super Bowls after that. Why is that? Because Patrick Mahomes makes guys like Rashee Rice so good and stuff like that. So, it's never a rebuild when you have a franchise quarterback. And, a couple teams in the league now have franchise quarterbacks that they're going to build around, like Jaden Daniels and, these other guys that are really good young quarterbacks. And, we'll see what happens in the future with them. But never a rebuild with the Bills. They're really good.
Speaking of young quarterbacks, do you think we get just a random statement win from CJ Stroud?
Yeah. I think it's a possibility.
I'm not going to lie. I'm kind of feeling it because no one's saying it's possible. And the Texans were freaking good last year, and they have the roster, the coach, and the quarterback to do it. So why not?
And a pass rush. I mean, if Will Anderson plays like he did last week, they're in trouble. And I'll tell you what, that right tackle for them, Jawan Taylor, he's going to struggle a little bit against Will Anderson.
I don't know if you've seen it, but the Chiefs had one loss, right? I watched some Instagram or YouTube video showing how easily the Chiefs could have had either 7 or 8 losses because of one small break that went their way. I know good teams get good breaks. Like I get it, but the fact I throw their record in a trash can. I mean, to me, they are no better than the Bills or the Ravens, and I don't believe they're better for 1 second because of that record. So I think the window's open for an upset. They've had a week off. I don't know, man. It's just like I'm not getting the vibes from the Chiefs this year. Like Rick said at the beginning of the pod, I think whoever wins between Ravens Bills is winning the Super Bowl. So I'm not respecting the Chiefs this year. Maybe that'll come back and bite me, but I'm just not. So go Texans.
Chad can't believe what we're saying right now.
And here we got a couple Chiefs fans, really good friends of the show. Chad's out there. He's very interested in this game, but obviously his team is not going to overlook the Texans. And guess what? Cody, I don't think Cody, who's a fan of the Texans, expected them to get this far. He wasn't liking how they were playing down the stretch. But let me ask you guys, I didn't see a lot of Texans games. Obviously, the game they played against us and this past game. But CJ Stroud, was he not running the ball more than he normally does? Like he had a chip on his shoulder. Has he always been like that? He's been a runner.
He's not a mobile quarterback at all. He doesn't run. No.
Oh, so what he was doing in this past game was different. I mean, he was taking the ball and running, and I think you see that CJ Stroud.
Yeah, the Texans' offensive line is like notoriously terrible this year. I mean, CJ Stroud is like seeing ghosts every game because they have been that bad. I don't put this year. I mean, I think he's a great candidate for a bounce back next year, or actually maybe a bounce back this year. But this is not on him this year. He lost Diggs to an injury after Diggs was pretty good. Scoring a lot of touchdowns at the beginning of the year. Lost Tank Dell. The offensive line is in shambles, and here they are. They're in the final 8. So I think he's fine.
I'm very surprised that we have the same Final 4 as last year in the AFC.
Yeah,
I'm very surprised. Yeah. I did not think we would have the same Final 4. I thought. I mean, obviously, Ravens, Bills, Chiefs, I thought would get there, but I did not think the Texans were going to get there. I thought the Chargers were going to whoop them last week. That was very, very wrong on that. But we saw this Texans Chiefs game like 4 weeks ago or 5 weeks ago or something like that. And the Chiefs just whooped them at home. So I don't see there's any way the Texans are going to go into Kansas City and win this game. One of the toughest venues to play in the NFL. Chiefs are going to win. They're going to host the AFC Championship game, and it's going to be up to either Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson to go in there and beat them. I think that's just what it's going to come out to.
Yeah, Chad, don't worry. We're not disrespecting them. You might be right, though. Like Mahomes not even up for MVP conversation. The team was they lost 2 games in the year. Maybe the most disrespected first seed. I think, to me, the Chiefs turn it up in the playoffs. Look what they did last year. I don't think you would have thought that the Chiefs were going to get to the Super Bowl last year either. They had to go through Buffalo, then Baltimore, and they turned it up a notch. And I don't know, Andy Reid, and you can never count out who Rick says. I don't know, Rick, is this still your take? Is Pat Mahomes the greatest of all time? Because you said
greatest of all time. I've never seen a better skilled quarterback than Patrick Mahomes. He's unbelievable.
Right, so there you go. He alone is going to make that. They want that 3-peat, and they want it badly. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting. But I know we're on a timeline for Rick, so I want to get into the keys of the game. And I'll start with you, Chris. What's the keys to victory for the Baltimore Ravens?
I just think don't overthink it. I still am picturing last year's AFC Championship clear as day in my head. I know, our running back last year was Gus Edwards, not Derrick Henry, so it's easy to lose sight of your game plan. But the Ravens' path to victory has been so incredibly crystal clear the last 6 weeks, and we shouldn't change it. Extra offensive line, 2 tight end sets, 3 tight end sets, Pat Ricard leading the way for Henry. You have to make the other team adjust, not vice versa. I think, Zay Flowers is in question to play. I'd be an idiot to say we're better off without him because we're not. But what will be more crisp if he's not there is the lack for us to deviate from our game plan, to absolutely pound the rock, hit play action passes with the tight ends over the middle. And that will be our chunk plays. The Ravens aren't an offense that's going to throw 40, 50 yard deep balls to our wide receivers. Our chunk plays come off heavy play action, after we've ran the ball 4 times in a row. So I just think stick true to our guns. Our offensive line is playing really hot right now. It's a young group of guys that was not that great at the beginning of the year. They're excellent right now. You got to ride them, ride Henry, and then Lamar just needs to do what he's been doing, take the opportunities when they're there, and don't be a South Florida boy that loves the warmth, because I'm not going to lie, I'm a little bit worried about the weather. Lamar is very, very, very vocal and honest about how much he hates cold weather. He is not trying to hide it. Josh Allen loves cold weather, right? So I think that's going to play into it. With a 5-degree wind chill, and if there's wind, I don't. If Lamar throws the ball, I do think he's the MVP of the league, and I think this is crazy to say, but if you all make Lamar throw the ball 30, 35 times, we're not going to win. So it's just all about the game plan and sticking to it. Don't fix what isn't broken. Run Henry, use the big offensive line. 27-24 Ravens.
Hey, will this game come down to a kicking matchup? That's my question for both
2 of the worst kickers in the NFL this year.
What the hell happened? I mean, come on, right?
We had 2 of the best kickers. Now they're 2 of the worst kickers.
Yeah.
What happened?
I don't get it, man. Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah, I agree with what Chris said. I just real quick. The biggest thing in this matchup, I think, it just comes down to can the Bills stop the Ravens rushing attack? I mean, that's what it is in every game against the Ravens. Can you stop Henry and Lamar on the ground? And the Bills have not been that successful stopping running backs this year. And we just gotta pound the rock, and don't be scared to pound the rock. Even if we're down 7-0, 10-0, don't get away from what's our bread and butter, and keep pounding Henry, and good things will happen.
I will let you know that I filed a complaint with the NFL about Pat Ricard. I think he needs to be tested for steroids, and maybe we can get him out of this game because it's just illegal. What's the guy weigh? Is he like 300 pounds or something like that?
Yeah,
so how do you, this dude coming at you, Derrick Henry, what, 245, 250? And Derrick Henry, like, it takes him about 3 steps, but he goes from 0 to 60 quick, and he's faster than anybody on the Buffalo Bills. He's outrun us a few times. So again, Pat Ricard, my gosh, insane. Jake, what's the keys to victory for the Buffalo Bills?
Keys to victory. Well, first, I want to address what Chad is saying here. Chad, listen, I don't want you to get it twisted. We mean no disrespect to the Kansas City Chiefs. We know they might be the quietest 15-2 team of all time. I mean, as crazy as that is to say, because I feel like they were always in the news last year, especially with the Taylor Swift stuff. It seems to have sort of died down. Once that undefeated streak came to an end, they're just grinding out wins and getting the job done week by week, right? So, yeah, they take it up a notch in the playoffs. So, no. Absolutely, we will not be overlooking them. And we freaking love you, by the way, Chad. Thanks again for joining us tonight. So no disrespect to the Kansas City Chiefs. I was just saying, hypothetically, if Will Anderson get after Jawan Taylor a little bit, maybe they got a shot, right? But keys to victory, Mike. I actually think it will come down to special teams play. This is going to sound a little crazy, right?
Okay.
The Buffalo Bills special teams has been very, very inconsistent in terms of just not being like mentally there. I mean, we got beat on a freaking fake punt last week with Riley Dixon throwing one of the slowest passes in NFL history, and then Marvin Mims catching the ball and whatnot. And I think there is going to be a very pivotal moment in this game that revolves around special teams play, whether it's kicking field goals, whether it's blocking a punt, whether it's doing something like that. I don't know what it is. I just have an inkling that something's going to factor into the game that's special teams related. And I'll tell you what, there is some good news that we've been receiving. Brandon Codrington, our rookie return man, who we traded a 6th-round pick for, who I didn't even know existed on this planet before the season started. He's going to play this week. And I'll tell you what, he looks absolutely incredible back there. I think it's time he takes one to the house. So that's my hot take. I think maybe we take one to the house, and maybe that's the difference in this game. Or maybe there's a special teams error that occurs. Mac Hollins has been absolutely balling as a gunner on this team as well. So I know it's not the sexiest thing to talk about, but I'm going to say it right now. I think special teams is going to matter a lot in this game, especially with the elements being the way they are. I know the wind isn't going to be too crazy, but the cold, that affects you, man. And you get a little physical out there. You're starting to pop pads. You're trying to catch a punt. You got those lights shining at you. Something's going to happen. Something crazy is going to happen there. And by the way, the 2 kickers that we have, my gosh, it's been so inconsistent this year. I don't know what's going on. We got a Hall of Fame kicker for the Baltimore Ravens and Tyler Bass, who's been good in the past, but just he's in a funk. I think it was good last week that we got him to kick a few short field goals, get his confidence up a little bit. But he's been shaky this year, and I can't say I have full confidence in him. This is dating back to last year in the divisional round where he missed a field goal that could have potentially won us the game. Not saying it would have, but it could have potentially won us the game. So that's my biggest concern, and I think you got to be sharp on special teams this game. As far as other things go, I do want to say, just as much as you guys run the football, the Buffalo Bills need to stick to the recipe and run the football as well. Be physical. James Cook has been fantastic. Use both of those running backs. Ty Johnson, he's a Maryland guy. You guys know how talented he is. I think he is maybe one of the best 3rd down backs in football. The guy has been so clutch for us in so many different moments. I feel so confident with him carrying the football and catching passes out of the backfield, lining up even in the slot as a receiver. He does a lot of great things for us. And by the way, he can play specials too. So I think that's going to be huge for us. JA-17 is going to put a cape on, and we're going to win this ball game. And I do think it's a close game. I'll give it a field goal game as well. Let's go 27-24, reverse Buffalo Bills. Let's go. I know that was a mouthful.
Well, no, that's all good. I agree with everything you said. I had my notes here. Run the ball. We're damn good at it. It's one of our strengths. Strength against strength. They're the top in only giving up 80 yards, but stick with the run. Hit those backs out of the backfield with some passes. They're both great receiving backs. But the big thing for me, like you're saying, special teams, I think it's going to be a turnover. And guess who's number 1 in turnover differential? The Buffalo Bills. And it's by a mile. It's not even close. This team is very opportunistic. And I can see Taron Johnson haunting the Ravens once again in this one, making a big play, maybe taking one back to the house. But I think it's a close game. I'm going to go with Rick, high-scoring game, 35-31 Buffalo.
Wow. Okay. And by the way, what is it set at? 51.5. So both Chris and I think we're going to hit the under on this one.
By 1 point. Yep.
Crazy.
I got the same score as you, Mike, but the other way around. 35-31 Ravens.
I love it.
All right, and I gotta go, but let me give you before I go. Let me just give you one hot take from this weekend.
Yeah.
Commanders are going to go into Detroit and beat them.
Ooh.
Okay, let's go.
Let's watch.
Okay. All right.
They're going to do it.
Landover's finest. I like
Chris,
it.
we got one more segment. I know Rick has to run, but
yeah, I got to get going, guys.
It won't take long.
See you, Rick.
So, it's kind of a little bit of a fun segment. Rick, thank you so much, man.
We'll see you in Buffalo.
Yeah, maybe.
On that plane.
Before we start that, can I ask Jake a follow-up special teams question? I know he's been waiting for it.
Yeah, let's hear it. Come
okay,
on.
so the Ravens notoriously really good at special teams. John Harbaugh's special teams coach by nature.
Yeah,
we cannot find a punt returner. This year, the punt returner that we played last week, Steven Sims, we just signed him like the week before that.
He's kind of
from
a stud.
Houston. So we're I just wanted to put out there, we're extremely sketchy right now when it comes to punt returning. Steven Sims fumbled 2 punts in his first go at it.
Yeah.
So I'm nervous there, right? But my question was, Bass, how is he on kickoffs with producing touchbacks? Is
This
that a
year,
strength of his?
yeah, I mean, typically when we are kicking the ball off it, not a lot of them are returned. So
Okay.
that usually isn't even a thing. It's not something we even really entertain a whole lot. So yeah, I would say unless there's a very, I would say majority of the time it is a touchback. And I'm going to look that up because I want to see what the stat is on that. By the way, Steven Sims used to be a really good returner for the Washington Commanders back in the day, right? So that's interesting that you say that. Yeah, he fumbled his first 2 times on his first 2 returns with you guys. So
Yeah, I don't know that. I don't think either of them were lost. But
yeah.
we've been struggling there, trying to find someone. Our previous returner before Sims was Desmond King, I believe, who we just signed as well. So basically, we've been
Crazy.
signing people, trying them out as punt returner, and then moving on. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't go back to Tylan Wallace to return punts this game. He's been Mr. Reliable for us. But the reason I asked about Bass is kind of a below the radar Ravens player that I think could impact special teams is Keaton Mitchell. If you remember, he was a rookie, undrafted rookie last year. Probably one of the most shifty, fastest running backs in the NFL. Undersized guy, but just absolutely lightning in a bottle. He had a pretty gruesome knee injury at the end of last year. And he's finally healthy, and we look like we're trying to get him involved a bit. So I would expect to, he's our primary kick returner, and then we usually try to set up a screen or two in the game. But if there is a special teams play, I would think, he's had a couple of nice returns for us. So I'm interested to see if Bass can produce touchbacks.
You like that Rasheen Ali guy too? He's a rook, right?
Yeah,
guy?
he's all right. I mean, I'm actually surprised he's been getting our RB3 touches over Mitchell, which I think Mitchell wasn't totally healthy until recently. But yeah, I mean, Ali's he's a big play guy and has starting running back size. So
he does.
I don't expect him to play much, if at all, this week. But yeah, in the future, I think he's a nice little player.
By the way, this year, Tyler Bass has his highest touchback percentage of his career at 72.8%. So there it is.
Yeah, he has a pretty strong leg, Chris. And unless we have wins, which I thought there would be a lot more of that towards the end of the season, still didn't see it. He was still kicking into the end zone. But if there's wins, that could affect the kickoff and maybe get some opportunities to return it. So it'll be interesting.
Love talking specials.
I know what you do. All right, I'm going to flip the switch and dim the lights here for a second. We're going to switch over to the overlay real quick. And this is our segment, Last Things Last. This is kind of like our knock on First Things First. Chris, have you ever seen that? Nick Wright and Chris Bouchard and
I'm stumped, man.
Who's the other guy? Jake, that's Wilds, I think is his name. I don't know what his first name is.
Yeah, that's right.
So they had, and Chad, you'll appreciate this if you're still out there, Chad. So Nick Wright is known for talking. He's been kind of a fan of the Bills this year. He's talked some good things. And I had never really heard about him much. Jake was telling me, what do you mean you haven't heard of them? So I've been watching them a lot more this year. They're funny, they're entertaining, and I think, they know what to say to get people riled up. But he had a really good, this is like a minute and a half. I want to play this video here. It's not even that, maybe not even a minute. Well, let me ask you guys, what's the one thing that fans who don't like KC, it's the one thing they say that they get the benefit of all the time? Like Mahomes gets the benefit. They've got these people in their back pocket. What have you heard?
About
like what helps them win games? What helps them win games?
About Kansas City, you said?
Yeah, Kansas City. What do fans that don't like Kansas City say all the time? Man, they have people in their back pocket.
I guess it's just like people always kind of wonder, do they have some sort of love affair with Sean Smith? I mean, when they announced Sean Smith was the referee for the AFC Championship last year, I about puked in a bucket. they have an outstanding record with Sean Smith. And it's just, I don't know. I think that at the end of the day, the NFL is a business, and businesses make money. And to make money, you need views. And to get views, you need people and names that people want to view, right? So I think Kansas City is incredibly good at not only being a great football team, but also they have the entertainment factor, right? So do I think the NFL cooks the books? I mean, I think there's way more than a 0% chance that happens. So when people talk about KC, you talk about, are the refs kind of urged to give them more than they would give other teams? I'm not going to say there's a 0% chance. I'm not going to say it's the WWE. I'm not going to go that far. But I think the NFL certainly does not mind when Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift are in the Super Bowl. I'll stop there before I get beat up.
Get beat up. Yeah, so Chad nailed it, and you nailed it too. It's the refs, right? They always say the refs are in. The Chiefs have the refs playing for, or Mahomes gets a lot of calls because of the refs. And yeah, you got it too, Jessica. So you've all heard it. So I want to have you listen to Nick Wright's take on Josh Allen. So let me share the screen real quick. Let's see here. All right. Hopefully you guys can hear this. I had to can't use the full video because I get a copyright. But here we go. I did my best, put some images up there. But listen to them. This is funny stuff to me.
Mike, you playing audio? I don't hear anything.
Oh, you're not hearing anything?
No, I'm not hearing anything on my end.
All right, hold on a second. I'm glad you said something.
Yeah, I was like,
All right, well, I'm going to walk you through this, what he said here, just so I don't have to get that all figured out. But let me move forward this a little bit. So if you watched last game against Denver, Josh Allen was seen yelling at one of the refs when Dalton Kincaid was mugged in the end zone.
Yep.
And basically he was saying, if this was Pat Mahomes, what did the league do when the Bills lost the 13-second game? What'd they do? They changed the rules. And made it so that the opposing team, if someone scores a touchdown on the first drive in the playoffs, the other team gets a try. He was also saying something about when the Chiefs had lost a similar thing, what did the league do? Nothing. And so then he went into Josh Allen yelling at this guy, and then the ref comes over to Josh and he's seen talking to him. There you go. He's patting him on the head. And then my last image here is like, there it is. Like, that's on me. That's not. So Nick Wright was like, that's not the ref coming over saying, stop yelling at me. That's the ref coming over and saying, yeah, that's on me, buddy. We'll get him next time. So if you had seen this in a Chiefs game, what would you be thinking, right? You'd be like, oh my God, it is true what Chris just said. There's something going on with the refs, but here you go. And he's absolutely right. And I love it. This is funny to me. But look at the ref. Look at him, Jake. He's like, dude, I'm sorry, Josh.
It's unprofessional, if you ask me. I mean, I saw this,
yeah, it is.
on a couple different media outlets, over the weekend. If you're the head ref and you miss a call, own it. I mean, own it after the game. You shouldn't be going 20 feet into the team's bench and rubbing the guy's back. Yes, he missed the call. I watched the game. He missed the call, but you move on with life and you call the rest of the game the best you can. You don't go rub the guy's back and say, I'm so sorry, buddy. Maybe I'm just sour because Baltimore is notoriously sour about referees. I believe the Ravens are the most penalized team in the league. We swear it's because the NFL hates the Ravens. So I don't know if that's true or not, but we never talked about it. But I think penalties are going to be a big deal this week. The Ravens just absolutely shoot themselves in the foot pretty often in games.
It's crazy too, because I feel like Harbaugh, man, like especially a special teams guy. Those guys they have such attention to details. So you think that would like resonate with the team, but has not been the case. Very weird.
It's procedural penalties that we've been really bad at this year, especially on the road. I don't know if you remember the first game of the year in Kansas City. I'm sure most people watched it. How we had 3 illegal procedure penalties on the first drive.
Oh, yeah. Insane.
Well, it's like the NFL came out and they wanted to prove a point, you know.
Yep.
It had to do with where the tackle is allowed to line up. You have to be on the line. You can't be set back. So
Right.
it's funny because they called that 3 times in one drive, and then you don't really see it stressed at all, the rest of the year. So anyway, it's just funny that the Ravens are, just getting absolutely dogged with penalties all year. And it just feels like they're choosing us to make an example out of. So that's my referee rant.
Well, especially because it's against the Kansas City Chiefs too. So that doesn't add any, that adds even more sourness, I'm sure,
Yeah.
So no, I hear you, Chris. I mean, it's valid. But I will say this is a bad look. As soon as I saw this, I'm like, it just kind of gives you like a knot in your stomach when you're seeing stuff like this, and who knows what they really said, but the optics of it don't look great, right? So we're complaining about it in one sense, right, with the Chiefs. So, I mean, in this take, he's right. It's like, hey, this doesn't look the greatest. And yeah, as the head ref, you can't be doing stuff like this. Like that's not good for optics. It doesn't matter what was even said. Even if it was, hey, don't be yelling at me.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
It doesn't look like he's saying that.
He could say that on the field to him next time he sees him, but
right.
Chad says the world would melt down.
Come right over to the bench.
Yeah.
Josh Allen is a good, I mean, I don't blame him though. Like Josh Allen, great human being. So why would you? I mean, I'd feel bad too. So I get it.
You know what? I didn't do it justice. If you go listen to that section, it is funny, and Nick does a good job presenting it. But look at that guy; he's right there. This is on me, and I hope 52 is in the Ravens game. I don't know if they have announced the refs, but I don't know what this gentleman's name is, but I want him there. I'm down for it. I'll take whatever advantage I can get. You owe us one, 52. You owe us one.
Right.
So
take a look here.
They announced the refs. It's not Sean Smith, which made us very happy because we never win when he's the ref. It's Carl
Sheffers. Yeah.
Okay.
And Carl Sheffers was the ref for us at least once this year. It was the Monday night game on the road against the Chargers. I think we had 11 penalties that game, something like that. I think it was one of our highest penalized games with Carl Sheffers. The notorious tripping call on Pat Ricard. How dare they call tripping? Did you remember that play, Jake? Did you watch
remember
that game
that.
when made a great block and fell down and his legs so happened to be in the air, tripping on Pat Ricard. The guy's never done anything wrong in his whole life. Can't call tripping on Pat Ricard.
It's ridiculous.
You mentioned penalties. The Bills have struggled as well. One play that I wish they would stop. Josh tries to get the other team to go offsides, and guess what? It seems to always be the Bills player jumping on the O line instead of the D line, and we give up that false start way more often than I'd like to see. So fun stuff.
By the way, just some stats for you on Carl Sheffers. So reportedly he's thrown 164 penalties this year, 73 on the home team, 91 on the away team. And the home team has won 73% of the games he has worked. So
that's just great to know. Thanks, Jake.
Right. He'll be working this Sunday. Love it. Absolutely love it. I'm down for it. Whatever.
He has not reffed a Bills game this year. So interesting.
73%.
73%.
Chad says Bill Vinovich is the one that was in that picture, and I'm a big fan. I'm sending him a Christmas card, and I hope he's talking to these refs like, hey, I know I didn't get the assignment, but I owe Josh. Give him one. Give him one in this one.
Right.
Allow somebody to mug Mark Andrews in the end zone and don't throw a flag on it. It'll be like 4th down, game's on the line. They throw it to Andrews. He's mugged. Incomplete, game over, Bills win. So I'm down for it. Don't call it.
Yeah. While we're talking about penalties and we were talking about making bets, I'll make my own bet against my own team. I will bet either of you any amount of money or any stupid thing you want me to do. There will be a 15+ yard penalty on Brandon Stevens at a key moment in this game. Mark it down. However much money you can bet on that, it's going to happen. The guy is
Wow.
so bad when the ball is in the air and he has to turn and run. Physical guy. He absolutely owns Jamar Chase, oddly enough. But if
Crazy.
you make him turn and run on a moon ball, the game's over. I mean, he doesn't know what to do with his body. So he just grabs people and tackles them.
Jake, can you get over to the stadium and give them this information? I mean, I know
Absolutely.
McDermott
They
usually
know.
watches this podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Give them that information, please.
Here's one thing I will say. Yeah, that is crazy. Brandon Stevens. I would probably have to agree with you on that, Chris. I did want to bring this up because I just had to look this up again. I'm pretty sure Kyle Van Noy again had a great year. 12 and a half sacks this year for you guys. How much of a surprise is that to you? I mean, this dude was retired from football. He was on the Pat McAfee show just, doing some color commentary and all that other good stuff, right? He's living the retired life, comes in, and he's been a huge impact for you guys. Him and Odafe Owa, both over 10 sacks this year. Nnamdi Madubuike, a little bit down with the sack numbers this year. Tough to replicate that as a defensive tackle. But you guys got, I think, what is it, the second most sacks in the NFL this year, just behind the Broncos. So first week we play the Broncos. This week we're playing you guys. How are we feeling about that? You guys have a pretty good pass rush.
So I will say stats lie sometimes. The sack numbers are a little bit misleading. There was a panic at the trade deadline because even though we have high sack numbers, teams pass the ball against us a lot. So our, I guess, percentage of sacks per pass rush is pretty low, right? So we have a lot of sacks, but that lends itself because we're often winning in the fourth quarter and we get some cheapies and we have a lot of pass rush opportunities, more so than, teams that are playing neutral game script or trailing, right? So, but yeah, Kyle Van Noy, great vet for the locker room, played great for us last year, even better this year. Dafe Owe out of Penn State, we've just been waiting for him to break out. Physical specimen, had 0 sacks in college, I believe, and we drafted him in the first round. And it took him his full rookie contract to bloom, but he's looking really good. Nnamdi Madubuike, formerly Justin Madubuike. Sacks aren't his whole story. He's a push the pocket guy. And, I know Bills are banged up week 3 or 4 when we played, but a key piece that wasn't there for the Ravens that's playing now and making impact is Michael Pierce, probably the best cornerback in the NFL. I don't know if you saw, all 360 pounds of him get that interception the other week, but the guy is absolutely as nimble as can be. I'm sure he's a great ice skater and ballet man as well. So look for Michael Pierce to get a nice tackle for loss in this game.
I'll tell you what, man, every decade there's got to be that guy, the dude who just picks off a pass. You go back to like 2000, it's Keith Traylor. Then you have Vince Wilfork. Now you got Michael Pierce, and I'm not putting them all in the same breath. Keith Traylor, Vince Wilfork, Pro Bowl guys. Michael Pierce, more of a role player, small school guy, but he's a mammoth human being. He's short and stout. He's essentially pot roast. Who's pot roast? Terrence Knighton, right? They used to call him pot roast. This is the new pot roast, Michael Pierce. Yeah. He's a player, man. I like him a lot. That's a very good point.
Since there was already a pot roast, let's call Michael Pierce short rib. How about that?
Short rib.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, that's great. I got to look this up. They usually have the nicknames of the players on Pro Football Reference. Dude, Michael Pierce, he's a fun guy to watch, man. I mean, yeah, he's a hell of a ball player. No doubt about it.
Yeah, drafted by the Ravens, cup of coffee with the Vikings, now back with the Ravens. So
massive
glad to have him back. Veteran leader. So Mike, to go back to your question, second in the league in sacks, but a little bit of it is we're cooking the books a little bit there. I think the keys are us running the ball, but just as important is finding a way to put Josh on his back, and that's way harder. Way harder.
The least sack quarterback in the NFL this year. Only 14 sacks allowed. And I'll tell you what, this offensive line is a top 3 offensive line in football. I've been saying this every freaking week. No one gives the Buffalo Bills offensive line enough credit. They're starting to. Some of these, and I want to give a shout out to our boy Sean Kula, because I'll tell you what, he's been beating his chest about this offensive line for 2 years now, and everyone's had their criticisms about this offensive line, I feel like, and finally people are starting, the media especially, and some of these Bills content creators are finally starting to recognize, like, hey, offensive line has played well above expectations. I mean, you had a huge switch in Connor McGovern moving from left guard to center because we lost Mitch Morse. That's a huge loss. But Connor McGovern has played better this year than Mitch Morse did last year. And then you have a new left guard in David Edwards, who was with us last year, just more of a role player, just played on heavy package. He's done a really nice job too. I am interested to see how this matchup goes this time around, because, last time around, I felt like you guys, I think the offensive line did okay, but they weren't even at the level they're at right now. Like they're playing at an amazingly high level. Something I really haven't seen in God knows how long. I mean, this is the best offensive line the Buffalo Bills have had in quite some time. So it's a breath of fresh air. And I'll tell you what, when you have a guy like Josh Allen, who's already hard to take down, and he's the least sacked quarterback in the NFL. I mean, it's a beautiful mix, So it's going to be a good matchup. But I like our O-line, man. They're special. They really are. I mean, Deion Dawkins, not enough respect. He's a top 5 tackle in football. Spencer Brown, what a freaking come up for him. Like, had some injuries, he battled through. Sure, he gets penalized here and there, but he's all Buffalo, and he's a hell of a right tackle. Probably our best right tackle since Eric Pierce. This is back in like 2010, right? So it's been a while since we had stability, even on the right side in general. Osiris Torrance doesn't really ever miss a snap. I mean, the guy is so damn good. So just really, really impressed with their play this year.
Yeah, we go heavy package a lot with Alec Anderson as well.
Alec Anderson, shout out to him.
Dude.
Great beard chugger.
Yeah, I think he's on the injury report. Yeah, I had a calf injury. Hopefully he's playing, because he loves to get under people's skin.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a feisty one. But yeah, they go big package with him. We don't have a Picard, but we got a Alec Anderson, who not in the backfield, but lined up on the line. So they go heavy again, run game. It's gonna be great. Both teams can run the ball extremely well, and that's my biggest concern. If you stop Henry, you got a shot. That's it. This is as simple as that. Stop Henry.
Yep.
You got a shot. All right. Well, that's fun, guys. Chris, we appreciate you. Both of you guys on the East Coast, a little late for you, but really appreciate it. We gotta, in the group chat, we gotta figure out what our bet is gonna be, and we gotta get Chris and Rick some Nickel City merchandise. Jake, gotta get them.
We do. Yep.
Yeah.
We got to get you guys more on the airwaves. I know. Listen, shout out to Chris, by the way. Congratulations on the baby girl.
Yeah.
I know you're in it right now. Just woke up from a nap to come on the show, so we appreciate the hell out of you, man. For real.
Yeah, thank you. I didn't know there was Nickel City merch. I got to take a peek at that stuff.
Oh,
man.
There is.
You
We're
see
going
that?
up in the world.
You see that little icon down on the bottom? I don't know. It's to your left or whatever. Big Stitch embroidery. Yeah, they're a sponsor of the channel, and they have some great Nickel City merch. But Jake has some for free. His Big Al, got us the hookup, and we've been sending some merch to some people. So you guys should definitely have one.
Let's maybe we'll run this pod back, after the game, a day after the game or something, and big stitching will turn into big bitching to see whoever lost.
Yeah, I love that.
Oh yeah,
sounds like a plan. I
love it. Yeah, we'll definitely have a post game, so we'll definitely run that back. So thanks, Chris, Jake, fun as always. I'll see everyone. Thank you again in the channel. If you're new to the channel, please drop a nickel on the subscribe button and smash the like button for us. We really appreciate that. So thank you all. Man, what is it? 5 more days? 4 more days?
4 more sleeps, baby. I'm ready.
It's almost here, guys. All right. Take care, everyone. Thank you.
Good night.